Hi everyone, it's Henry here, and in this video for the Horus Heresy Army Painting series, we're going to be tackling that classic metallic red scheme for the Thousand Suns Legion. As ever, the goal is to get a great looking army on the table as soon as possible, so let's paint. When we're working with a clear scheme, we want a nice bright metallic pre-shade. Now oftentimes I'll use silver, so a dark silver and a light silver, but this is one of those schemes where actually having a gold underneath is a benefit. So we're starting off with a nice dark gold colour. In this case I'm using Decayed Metal, one of my go-tos. I'm spraying 25 psi, I've thinned it 1:1 with normal airbrush thinner, and we're just looking for a nice smooth base coat. Then we go in with a much brighter gold. Now this is Metal Colour Series Gold by Vallejo. Same thing, I've thinned it maybe slightly less, so sort of 1 drop of thinner for every 2 drops of paint. And I'm going in here just doing a very simple highlight on those areas that I want to draw attention to. Just like we would with white over black, we're just doing a bright gold over a darker gold. So we're going to focus in on the face, top of the backpack, shoulder pads, the chest, and you can see already that contrast that we're getting between the two. And when we're doing these clear schemes where we put a candy coat basically over the top of a metallic pre-shade, you've got quite a dramatic level of contrast between effectively your white and your black. Certainly more extreme than you'd leave it if you were just painting the model gold. A little additional step, if you like to edge highlight, this is the time you need to do it. So I go back in with the light gold that I chose, and because I'm doing this with a paintbrush, it will come on more opaque than when I sprayed it on, so we can use it as an additional highlight. Army painting, I'm only going to bother on the faces, maybe the tops of the backpacks like this, on the character models. Now it's time to get the colour on. Now I'm going to use Angron Red Air. This is the reformulated version that came out a few years ago. I think about 3 years ago now. Whenever the contrast paints got released, they redid the line of Forge World paints, slightly reformulated them, but they're excellent paints. And I wanted to do this classic scheme for the Thousand Suns. I've seen some great flat schemes from them as well. That one Warmaster Painting did recently for the open day I thought was magnificent, but I love these classic candy schemes. They look brilliant on the tabletop. Now I've thinned it 1:1 with normal airbrush thinner, and we're going to build the coats up really nice and slowly. So you can see here I worked around the legs, then the upper torso, shoulder pads, and so on and so forth. Give it 1 layer, let it dry. And I tend to find with these that I'll always tilt it away from me and make sure I paint the shadows in, because I'd much rather forget the highlights than forget the shadows. Because if I have one slightly less or thinner coat of paint on the highlight, it'll still look like a highlight. If I miss the shadows, it's going to look a bit weird. So in the end, I went for 3 coats on here, and I'm letting it dry in between each one using a hairdryer. It can go really quick if you're not careful. So once you're happy with your red, make a note of what you've thinned it to and how many coats you've applied. It's really important to get consistency across the army. So once you're happy with it, even though it's shiny, we're going to make it even shinier to prep it for the next couple of steps. And for this, I've just used a gloss varnish. Use whatever gloss varnish you like. This one here is Vallejo polyurethane. You can see here I've thinned it about 3 drops of thinner to varnish, and I've sprayed about 3 layers of varnish on there. Now for our pin washing, I'm a big fan of using black to pin wash red with. So I've taken black by Ulthuan 502. I've thinned that down into a wash consistency using an odourless mineral spirit. My preferred one's Winsor Newton Santador. I'm using a synthetic brush to mix it all together, just to create a wash. And then we can go in, and because of that glossy finish we've got on the model already, so super low surface tension coupled with the solvent based paint, it's going to wash into all those recesses really easy. I'm also going to put the decals on at this stage as well, because I'll just leave it overnight to dry. If you're enjoying this video and you'd like to see more of our personal projects, maybe how we paint characters and vehicles for armies as well, consider checking out our Patreon. A massive thank you to everyone that supports us on there. You've allowed us to create all these videos and we're loving it, and we're only planning to do more and more and more, and it's all thanks to you. As I said, I left this overnight. Decals take a few hours to do their thing, and once they were dry and ready, I wanted to give the model, or the armour of the model, its final finish. Now when we're using a candy scheme, I don't want to use a super matte varnish because you're going to kill a lot of that shine, which is the reason you've picked that scheme. So for this I've just used a satin varnish, and that was by MIG. That was Lucky Satin. Hammer by Mig. Now, there's a few schools of thought on trim colours for Thousand Suns. Personally, I like to stick to all gold, similar to the artwork by Alex Boyd in the Collected Visions, but I want to show you how I do white if that was your preference. So I've just base coated it using a nice opaque grey, which was French Mirage Blue by Vallejo Model Colour. What I mean by that is it covers really, really well, so a sort of base style GW grey. And then I'm just going to use an off-white to highlight it, and in this case I've used Games Workshop Ulthuan Grey. 2 steps, nice and simple. That's what Army Painting's all about. Now for the gold even, I'm going to base coat it using Necro Gold by Scale 75. Then I'm going to give that a little wash of a roughly 3 parts Agrax to 1 part Dark Angel's Green contrast, so just like a dirty muddy green wash basically. And I'm doing this because I want the gold to look really aged and worn, sort of quite antique. And then I'm going to go in with Scale 75 Elven Gold, so quite a lot brighter, and just do a few little dot highlights here and there. I'm not painting all over it at all, I just want to make it look like where the edges have been rubbed and buffed a little bit, the gold's a little brighter. So sort of an antique-y gold feel. I figure it fits with them all being librarians and, you know, space wizards. For the eye lenses, now obviously red is for baddies. I don't know how good red would look on these guys anyway, and you know, our Thousand Suns bad guys, I'm not sure. You know, I'm very much jury's out on that one. So a nice sort of jade green we're going to go for here. So I've base coated it with Incubi Darkness, so a very, very dark turquoise colour. And then I've taken Kabalite Green by Games Workshop. I'm just doing one simple highlight, and then we'll do a little white dot highlight in the corner. Doing these resin upgrade heads, they look awesome, don't get me wrong, but it does make me like the plastics. You get much sort of sharper, smoother details on the plastics, such as eye lenses. And you can see obviously I've painted in all the piping in black, and the metal I've just base coated in Iron Warriors. I haven't done anything more to it. Now I think for a lot of people, if they want that clean finish, you're basically done. Base him up, you're good to go. But I like to make mine a little bit dirtier and grimier. It's obviously completely up to you the level you do it at, but we'll put a little bit on here for now. So I'm going to use a dark brown initially. This is Rhinox Hide, but use whatever dark browns you like. A thicker paint will be better than a thinner paint here, because it will stay where you splodge it. I'm just going to work my way around the model, gently sponging on some of the brown, focusing on those areas I think will take most of the battle damage. Battle damage doesn't look amazing on schemes like this, but it's definitely noticeable. And all I'm going to then do is go in with a brighter silver, in this case this was Lead Belcher. I'm going to do a few little chips with my brush, and I'll highlight a little bit of that Iron Warriors as well. It's remarkable how quick they come together at this stage. Now I've made up a brown oil wash, so just in the same way as we made the black one up. This one's brown. I think it was Shadow Brown by Abtalung, but I can't remember. I just went in the box of oils, grabbed a brown paint out. And even though we haven't glossed the model, it really doesn't matter. You still see you're going to get plenty of capillary action and everything because we're using a solvent base and because it's a slightly satin finish anyway. And I'm going to liberally wash this all over the metal parts of the model. This will give them a nice sort of patina. And it's a very different look than if we washed it, say, with that Agrax mix that we did earlier, which is why I like to use both, depending on what I'm trying to represent on the model. And then on other areas of the model, I'll wash the same brown in to act like a little bit of dirt and grime. But as I say, with this sort of scheme, the impact is the armour, right? It's that lovely metallic candy red, whatever you want to call it. That's what people are looking at. Personally, I don't think people are looking for a Thousand Suns army where they're going to ogle at the battle damage, for instance. I like to pick my projects depending on what technique I want to work on very often. So here he is, ready to stand alongside all the other schemes in the Army Painting series. As usual, when doing the research for this, I thoroughly fell in love with them. In the new Liber Hereticus book, there's some fantastic little, I don't know what you call them really, where they've taken photos of the miniatures and then photoshopped in Tizca, things like that, and it's just some fantastic atmospheric shots they've put in the background. Yeah, really want to do these guys, so quickly need to get on and paint something else and get them out of my head. As usual, if you've any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll do my best to get back to you. Like the video if you've enjoyed it. It really, really helps us out. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It means a lot to us. Now I just need to decide on the next Legion. So I'll see you next time.